Hi, my name is Patricia Rawlinson with Creative Arts Lifestyle, and I'd like to welcome you to this Love Lace project. We are going to learn all kinds of new fun little techniques and new mediums and things to use with lace, as well as some new tools, and we're going to show you how easy it is to paint lace ornaments. And I'll tell you what, if you want to make some good part-time cash at Christmas time, make these for and then put names and dates on them and sell them on Etsy or at your local craft bazaars. You can really do well with them. They sell upwards of like $25 a piece. So when you do a custom ornament. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the lesson. It's quick, it's fast, it's fun, and I think you're gonna love it. All right, I want to share some new kind of advances that I've learned about and been experimenting with lace ornaments. So I've got an ornament that I am not pleased with, and so what I did is I took this opportunity to do a little playing. So I don't know if you can see right here, I have a heart that has a lot of open space, and if you just leave it open, it's a little bit kind of boring. So I took our sticky mesh and I laid it over the top, and then I dry rubbed some glass effect gel over the top of it, and it created this lovely like cross-hatched glossy matte finish, which is kind of cool. And then I played around with floating or glazing with white over the different cross-hatched areas, and I really like that effect, and just a float with water works just fine. And then I took the glass, the glass effect gel, and I just dripped some there. You could take the glass effect, put it on your palette, and then use your dotting tools to do this as well. But it dries and it's raised up little beads of what looks like glass. So that's really cool. The pearl pen works the same way, and then I used the pearl pen to float right here. And I don't know if you can tell the difference between this one, and I didn't leave one empty, but it's got just a little bit of almost like a glittery, pearly looking effect, and it's not as strong as this, so when you needed something light, that would be perfect. And then I took my soft black, which is just like a dark color of the red, it's a color I would use to shade red, and I floated underneath the dots, and that really makes them look like they're raised up and coming up off the edge. So those are some of the new things. And then the other thing I was looking at is the idea of doing some a little bit more organic effects on these instead of just lines and commas. Some leaves, some little drop leaves, things like that. Leaves with just the pearl colors. Just a lot of playing going on down here. So when you mess up an ornament, don't throw it away. Use it to experiment on. Now, one of the things that is also we're super excited about, and I cannot believe how excited everybody else is too, is we've got this painter's platform. So this just slips on to the Artist Buddy, and then it gives you a spot to put your wrist. Okay, so you can move your hand around, move around, but it also has these measuring areas. And the measuring areas, this tells you where halfway is on a 4-inch ornament. This one is for a 4-inch ornament, but you could use it as a platform for anything. It's just not going to measure correctly. But then it gives you the 1/8 from the top, 1/8 from the bottom, and then all the way in, so that you can evenly mark your different bands and stuff like that. And that's what I used when I did the blue lace ornament. And this, see these effects right here where they're real shiny? And see how it's catching my spotlight up there. That was done using glass stain. Now, DecoArt has a new product that is called liquid glass. Oh, liquid glass was the one that was the dot on top. The glass effect will also do that. Anyway, but that is what happens. It eats the matte finish away, and that leaves this wonderful shiny area. It's just like the most crystal kind of finish. Very magical. You can do it with dots. You can paint your whole ornament just using the glass stain if you wanted to. It just makes for really, really big drama. People will think that you cut it out and stuff. It's kind of fun. But anyway, so that's how you get this really even measurement, and that's also how I was able to mark, and I lined just holding my hand at the 1/8 line, and then twist with my pen or my brush, and it made the line all the way around. So without any more ado, I'm going to show you how to paint a new red lace ornament. I want to cover one more thing Why do you need a lathe to do an ornament? Okay, well, I don't know about you, but like my hands are not huge, but when I'm holding my ornament, look at how many things are painted everywhere where my hand needs to go. I can't cup it down here or I'll just go poof and it'll spill out. I can't hold my hand real big all day long while I'm painting and then rotate and rotate and rotate and rotate like that. I need an extra pair of hands, and that's what the lathe does. And I don't know about you also, but I'm 52 years old and my hands are not as steady as they used to be. So when I am feeling like I am not the steadiest, I don't want straight lines and beautiful commas to be wandering around. And also, when you are holding this ornament and you're holding your hand, you have to anchor your hand on the ornament, and unless you're painting up here like 3 inches away from your hand, that's not a good way to paint an ornament. Now you could anchor onto a bottle of paint and do it, but then this hand is still moving. So with everything moving, then there's like no chance that anything is going to be straight or pretty. So you just take out all the variables, and that is going to make your hand super steady, and it will be the best you can do instead of all the variables and your best. Okay, let me tell you how I decode or how I do the lace patterns. You can't lay this pattern over the top of the ornament. It just doesn't work. I've tried it. I know another gal who designs lace has tried it. It didn't work for her either. So it's just not an okay way to do it. So what I've come up with is this gridded circle that will tell me approximately where to bring my ornamentation down. This is designed so that this is a 4-inch ornament. This gets you out here to this line, which is included on your pattern. This gets you to about the middle or a little bit lower than the middle of a 4-inch ornament. So when you're down here, you know that this is going to be the middle designs, okay? And so then what I do is I measure. There's my circle for the holder, and then maybe that's about a 1/2 inch. I'll make a 1/2 inch dot down, and then I know below that that's about 1 inch. I'll estimate about 1 inch down. With these measurements on this painter's platform, that's really, really handy. And then after I get my dots kind of marked, I go back through and I start connecting my dots. But your pattern is just laid out very matter-of-factly. You're going to look for things that are the same, like there's that dot, there's one right below it. That's 1 inch. I want to make that dot, go down 1 inch and make that dot. Do the same thing, do the same thing. Once you get all your dots on, you connect your dots, and it's super easy to paint from the pattern. Just take it one row at a time, and it's very balanced, so what you do to one side, you do to the other, etc. Okay, I've removed my ornament from my lathe. You just pull this side right here, has a spring, and so you just pull it against the spring, and you'll notice that my my little foam washer that pads the ends of the lathe came off with. This happens to me all the time. These things, you push it in kind of tight and they stick to your project. Not stick in a bad way, but stick in a way that means that they're stuck on it. And so I don't want that to happen, but sometimes they fall on the floor, my dog eats them, and we do offer extra sets of these because it happens all the time. You probably just want an extra set to begin with. The other thing that you'll notice is right here on your lathe, there's some goop right there, and that's actually the lubricant, and that is petroleum jelly. So if your lathe becomes a little bit sluggish and it's not turning the way it should, you'll just lube it up with a little bit of petroleum jelly and everything will go along smoothly. Do not touch the petroleum jelly and then touch your ornament, because you will end up with greasy streaks on your ornaments. So make sure your hands are oil free and be careful about how you're handling this lathe. Okay, so the very first thing I'm going to do, we're going to look at our map, see what's going on, and we're going to go, and we know that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dots, and we know that they're about a little bit away from the thing. Now you can use this little measurements on these things because they're kind of evenly distributed. But I'm going to look down at it, I'm going to make a dot, and then I'm going to go directly across, and I'm going to make an evenly spaced other dot. Okay? Then I'm going to come over here. I've got to divide this evenly into 2s, because I've got 6. 6 is harder to do than, say, like 8 or 4. And we want to make sure that that's kind of, this is a little bit bigger apart, so I'll cinch one of those in. And let me get some erasing tools. Okay, we've got these wonderful little clickable stick erasers that are real tiny, perfect for lace and the precision that you need with erasing on lace. And the material that they're made out of doesn't mar your finish. This finish is super duper particular, so you want to be real careful about what you touch it with. You don't have to varnish these, and if you did, all of the matte finish would go away. You can paint them if they're glossy, but if they're glossy, the paint doesn't stick as well, and like you get beading and things like that. You don't get that with the matte finish. That's why we really like it. And you can paint these on 3-inch bulbs or 2-inch bulbs, but you're going to need to take out a lot of the detail, because they the smaller they get, the less the detail does. It doesn't look good to have it all clustered real tiny. Okay, so I'll continue marking. And so this next one should be pretty easy because I'll go straight across. My throat has a frog. Okay, so now I think that I have those pretty even. Whoops, I'm walking here with my stuff. Okay, so I've got my 6. Now I know I'm going to have a stroke in between each one of those, but those I'll just hand do after I get my basic lines on. Okay, so we've got our first line. Now we're going to drop down our inch and give it one more set of lines. And if you didn't like that 1 inch away, you could cinch it up and have it be a little bit closer. And we want to come straight out. Now I can already see that I've got a big space over here and not so big over here. One thing that's fascinating about ornaments is when I'm looking at this side, I have no idea what's happening on this side. So if you're a little bit uneven from here to here, don't worry about it, because nobody in the world can see both sides at the same time. So that's real forgiving. So continue down, continue down. Okay, so now we have our initial dots. And now we're going to have, these are going to be connected with a little arched line. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and sketch on a little arched line. I try not to make them real strong and solid because I always end up erasing a little bit. This initial part you have to put on by hand because it's up near this thing right here. Okay, so now we're looking down at the ornament and we want to see, do we like what we see? I'm a little bit uneven, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. It's not horrible. Now these guys right here are going to have little skirts on them. And they don't quite touch. And this triple threat ghostwriter, we call it a ghostwriter because the lines disappear. So you can erase them, you can spit erase them, meaning that you can put some, saliva on it. You can use an eraser, you can use varnish. You don't want to use varnish in this case, but they erase with everything, so they just don't leave it marks afterwards, which is wonderful. Okay, let's see what else we got going on here. Okay, now these things get closed up, these little footballs. Now we probably want to go ahead and make a dot. Only because these things have a habit of getting away from me. And I don't want half of them huge and half of them small. Okay, so, and that one looks like it's going to be kind of huge, so. That's where our eraser comes in. Just take off the excess lines. Okay. Alright, so then we take a look at it. Do we like it? I think I'm fine with it. Alright, and then they're going to have little scallops on these, but I'm going to brush through those. Okay, and then we're going to want our line. This is where we'll get back into our lathe. We want our line to be, okay, so we're going to want a stroke. Let's go ish an inch. Okay, you can use this little flexible see-through ruler and slap it on there and be like, okay, I want a 1 inch long or ½ inch long stroke, and you can just put a line right down the middle to indicate that your stroke is going to be there, and that actually needs to be a little bit longer. And I'm noticing when I look straight down the middle, my line is leaning out. I definitely want everything to fall straight down. So I'm going to hold it straight up. Let that fall straight down. You don't want leaning things if you have astigmatism where your corrective glasses. Okay, now we're also going to have some little side things, but I think right now what I want to do is start painting and start getting some lines on there. What I'd love to share with you about painting ornaments is that they're fast and they're fun and they're easy, and you shouldn't stress out about it, because the more stressed out you are, the less confident your strokes will look or your lines. This is simply 1/2 inch line connected to 1 inch lines all the way around, and everybody can do a 1 inch line. And if you mess it up, put a dot on it or glitter it. Okay, so here we go. We're going to add some water to our paint. We want it to be like an ink consistency. And you need a really, really, really good liner brush for this. That's the one thing you do need if you want to have success, is a good brush. The brush that I love, pardon me while I get a napkin, the brush that I love is the Raphael Kolinsky Quill. If you're a beginner, I don't recommend this brush because it's too expensive, and you're not going to know how to take care of it and that kind of stuff. But we do have a wonderful little guy right here called the Mighty Fine Liner, and it is a miraculously cheap and wonderful good liner brush. Okay, so you can see how nice and fine tipped that is. And even better, the length of the brush is perfect for smaller hands, like women's hands. Okay, so I'm going to get my brush loaded, and I just kind of puddle around in there until I like the weight of it, actually. But you just want it evenly loaded all the way to the top. And you'll notice that this brush has a really fat little belly, and that means it's going to feed the tip of the brush as I'm making strokes. So I'm just going to have to do this top row without the lathe, but I don't have anything in my way to hold on, to worry about like dots and stuff. So I'm just going to go on here, 1/2 inch line. Go on here, 1/2 inch line. That's all you're going to do, is you're going to connect your little dots and make your lines. Okay? Okay, and our cross hatching is done by just making, make sure my tip is nice and fine. Cross hatching just goes one direction, turn it around, follow it the other direction. One line at a time, and isn't that pretty? Okay, so then we can connect these lines, and I'm not going to go that whole 1.5 inch or whatever that is. I'm going to come up here to the middle, and then I'm going to continue it. It's just a little bit too long to make in one fell swoop. I want to make sure that my hand is going to be steady. So I'm going to finish my cross hatches, and then I'm going to put it in the lathe, and we'll continue from there. Okay, I'm going to slip the nose of my ornament into that hole, and you can see that what I just painted is inside there, so that's why I couldn't do it that way. And then I'm going to spin it to make sure that I'm in there straight. Okay, this lathe, by the way, works with flower pots, wine glasses, finials, just any little odds and ends that you want to squish in there that you don't want to hang on to. So you can do lots of things with it. Okay, I think I can get to most of that. Might have to take it out, do a little bit more. I think I'm gonna have to do that one line. Okay, out it comes one more time. Okay, and in this case, I think I'm gonna use my platform. That just gets my hand right up where I need it to be. So you can actually use this without even having a crafter's lathe. Okay, see, when I'm on the platform, I can actually make that whole stroke and get all the way there. And I'm liking these strokes a lot nicer than this one that I'm covering up. I'm able to make a more confident stroke. Okay, and we'll make that next line underneath as well. It allows the brush to do its job, which is follow through. Your brush needs to start here, but it needs to swing and sweep and swoosh kind of at the end. And when you allow it to do that, then everything is prettier. I'm liking this platform even off the lathe. That is awesome. Okay, so see that one painted on just a little bit small. I need to be careful. And then that one has a little warble. However, what I know as a painter from years and years of experience is that that's going to be just fine. It's better if they're perfect, and it's awesome when you can do it, but nobody can, so let's just not even go for that. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is put it into our lathe so that we can make our strokes and things like that. I just realized something, and this is like one of those epiphany moments. You can put this in sideways and you can do some of your lines and stuff that way. Open it up and just turn it and rotate it a little bit so you have your lines. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stack it in here and make I want to make sure I'm straight, so I'm going to pull this apart, straighten my act up just a little bit. Okay, so we're going to have this little kind of sideways lines. That's the easiest I've ever painted those. Okay, now I want a little series of these little swooshes. I'm going to go ahead and make my comma strokes. I'm going to use a Pro Round brush and just get a nice comma. We're going to glitter over these, so you're not going to worry too much about it. While I'm making my strokes, I'm going to make these strokes that are up here at the top as well. This is where you start getting a little bit tricky. This is why we have craft lathes, because they're tricky, tricky, tricky. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to be running into this deal right here, so I want to make sure that I just kind of control it. And kind of bring it up as much as I can. Oops, no control there. Ah, out of control. There we go. And let's go ahead and do some of our dots that are in that place. So we're going to use our mini dot tools. So these are one of those tools that you'll be like, no, I don't need that because it's just dots and I can use my brush. Well, here's the deal. If you use your brush, you're not going to know if this zero brush has a fat end on it, which is the equivalent of maybe number 4, or if it's really flat, you know, like this, and just by looking at the brush. So you'll be digging in your brushes forever, whereas if you have these 2 little dot tools, you have 8 sizes of dots, and they're manageable, and you can hang on to them better than a brush. So I'm going to use the number 1s, and I'm going to use fresh paint. When you're doing dots, you want to do fresh paint. And we'll dot those little cross hatches. And wipe wipe your dot tool off. And if you want them even tinier, then you can just dot them on your palette before you dot them on here. So now we might switch to a bigger dot for maybe the number 4 for the tips of our strokes. And you might bring an even bigger dot. And you can decide this yourself if you don't like the sizes I'm choosing. Hey, where's my numbers? There, blend us a number 2 on the big one. We'll get us a nice big juicy guy for the tops of those strokes. Okay, now I'm going to do what we call a descending dot. And so I'm going to do a nice juicy dot here at the base of this. And then I'm going to continue dotting all the way up that line. And they'll get little microscopic and teeny. So they kind of fade their way up. And I call it a descending dot. Alright, I am going to go ahead and float. Soft, soft little float. Arching up. Just at the base of those cross-hatched areas. Make sure that you're soft. That means soft means water, and blotted and blended. I've got a how to float video if anybody is mystified by this. I taught Japanese students for years and years, and I didn't speak their language, and I had to teach them how to float. And I learned how to teach floating in about as many ways as you can teach floating without being able to speak, so it's a pretty good video. Alright, so that just kind of diffuses those, and it gives them a little bit more kind of like magic gleam. I think that's a pretty neat effect. Okay, now I'm going to use my ghostwriter, which is how I mark all the things, and I'm going to get my estimator here and see if my strokes kind of hit the mark. I don't think they do, so I'm going to come down to the 1/4 inch mark. And I'm just going to hold my pencil here. I'm just anchoring my hand, holding my pencil here. Sometimes it's going to rub against, sometimes it's going to disappear. I can just rock backwards. I'm trying not to move my hand because I want the line to be right. And sometimes, like right now, it's pushing against it. And look at that, straight smack on the money. You cannot buy that anywhere. That is so cool. Making a line around a round thing is an impossibility. All of my lace before used to never have a straight line because you can't do it very well. But now you can do it really, really well and really easily. Okay, so then we're going to do, I think, just another little space here. Just mark that, come back. As long as you anchor your hand and don't be moving your hand, things end up well. Like I'm moving my hand right on the money. Good. Okay, so we know that was at the 1/4, and maybe I want to come down here and do something else at the 1/4 as well. That would be a really good balance thing. So I could mark my hand right here, but I'm not quite certain. On this ornament right here, I had done these hearts in the middle, and I'm not really a fan of the hearts. My team was a big fan of the hearts, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet in this space. I don't want to create too big a hole to fill, so I have to figure that out first. As I'm loading my Raphael brush, I'm reminded of a question that a customer once asked me: when do you know that you're ready for a Raphael? Well, when you can control your brush, you're probably ready. When you know how to take care of brush, you're probably ready. And when you want to start improving your line work and you want things to start getting better, it's time to move up to a better brush. Okay, so I've got my brush loaded. I've got it nice and inky, fully loaded. Got a nice point. I'm going to anchor my hand right here, and I'm going to paint with my lathe, which is just awesome. I can skip from stroke to stroke, or I can let it go all the way around. Just depends on how I feel it's doing. You don't want to add extra pressure, so you want to just kind of keep that locked. If your paint starts being kind of misbehaving, then just reload. Got a little ball of paint on the end. And you start up again where the on a line that you had already painted. So don't start on the line, start within the line. So I'm not going to start right there where I ended. I'm going to go back here a little bit and start. I'm doing two things here. I'm eyeballing where my line goes, and I messed that up right there. However, that will be the back of the ornament. So you never have to worry about messing up. You could just hang it to the back of the tree. Okay, and I've got a little fur. If your palette paper gets kind of fuzzy, you need to get a clean sheet because those fuzzies will make your line work look awful. All right, and then I continue on with my second band. Okay, I figured out what I'm going to do in the middle. I'm going to do some great big, got a little fuzz. This palette paper is really dirty. Do not paint with fuzzes on the end of your brushes. I'm going to do a great big giant long stroke. And put those all the way around, and then I'm going to do descending dots hanging from these little boughs. Okay, so we're going to go and I'm going to use the number 1 on the big dot tool. And I'm going to see where my middle is. And then we'll make descending dots. And make sure that we wipe off in between. And if you want them to be descending and you can't make that dot again to either side, give it a dot or two off on your palette paper. And that should help. I'm going to make a series of just little lines. Don't know if I'm going to dot them yet or not. Don't rule your handle while you're making a straight line. That's not good. Okay, and I've gone ahead and made this a double strand of pearls. So I think that that looks really pretty and it fills that space nicely. Okay, I'm going to use the glass effects. And I'm going to squish some out on my palette. I love the consistency of this. It's going to be really hard to see because it's clear. But let's get that. See how it just stays straight up. It actually holds its shape. So it's not laying down and getting all flat and squishy and stuff. So I love, love, love it. Okay, I'm going to use the glass effects and my number 4 dot to make a clear dot every other one of these. And that should add just a little bit of shimmer and shine and detail without being too obnoxious. Alright, I've got a bead and glitter glue tray, or bead and glitter glue. I've got bead and glitter glue on my palette, and I've got a glitter tray over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my liner or my stroke brushes, and I'm going to repeat my strokes using the, I'm going to really want this to be on. Tell you what, once you see the difference that it makes to have these, your hand supported when you're painting these, you will be spoiled for life. Such an amazing difference. It's a game changer for sure. So you get that glittered, and then sprinkle on some glitter. There we go. And you'll brush that the rest of the residue off with just a mop brush when you're all finished. And this way, by doing it this way, you collect your used up glitter in the tray and you can just tap it back into the jar and there's no waste.